everyone. My name is Nishat Fatima. I am the Customer Experience Management Advisory Community Lead. I'm super excited to have Sameer Patel with us here today, who's the Chief Marketing and Solutions Officer for SAP Customer Experience. I'm super excited to hear his thoughts on CX and XM and how that they kind of work together and how we are helping our customers with that. So without any further ado, let's jump right in.
So I think that, the way most organizations have been wired pre-pandemic is by default going to look obsolete in many ways. And these companies, it's not about them having to throw the technologies out, it's about how their organization is wired. And in some cases, they're going to have to upgrade and get better stuff. Digital transformation, often gets a bad rap because it's often a solution looking for a problem to solve, because people haven't really thought about what are you actually solving for versus just getting digital, which is an expensive reason to go digital transformation, right? I think we've got some really compelling reasons now for us to rewire how our demand chains and our supply chains are connected, because a lot of these pre-pandemic habits or these pandemic-driven habits are going to remain forever. So to me, that's the way I look at digital transformation, right? You rewire your organizations by putting the customer experience at the center of your design. Right?
Yep. So, no, that's true, right? Like
now,
that customer.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, that's true, right? Like that customer experience and really like helping them through that. That's super important. And like, that's where experience management, I'm hoping, like comes in play. So how are we helping with that?
Well, I mean, listen, I think through first things first is, if you break up any kind of digital transformation process, right? There's the early sort of process mining, understanding what the baseline is, understanding where the problems are, and you start to make the change, and you go through the change, and then you got to go through change management, if you will, for how people start to work, because there's a new way to work.
Yeah.
Experience management covers every piece of that, right? As you're trying to understand at the top end, what are some of those very valuable qualitative data nuggets, right? That can start to explain to you where is the process broken and how, and what can you glean from, one is explicitly by asking questions, but implicitly as well based on user behavior, right? How are people working, or the actions they're taking, where are the inefficiencies before you start to redesign a process. Once you start to redesign a process, it's another feedback loop right there. On how is this working? Have we actually improved it? Have the KPIs gone up? Are we doing it in a pilot form? So there's experience management at that level. And then finally, there's a lot of hand-holding. There's a lot of behavior change. When you tell somebody who's done something for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years in a certain way, you're going to need the right amount of hand-holding through that process to be able to make sure that it works, right? So, to me, experience management is a continuous loop that never ends in that sense, right?
That's so true.
It's pretty central to any digital transformation.
That's so true. And like helping our customers through that journey and being there for them and being that trusted advisor and kind of like guiding them through that is super important, right? And that's where I feel like some of the innovation also comes in play, right? Like as we're working with our customers, as we're kind of like helping them define that journey, that innovation aspect comes in. So how are we like working on that, and how are we helping our customers through this internal or external processes that we have through innovation?
Well, I mean, I think the value, there's two places to add value, right? One is just through these large scale sort of digital transformation exercises like we spoke. I think perhaps the thing that excites me even more than that, right, is not really sort of end-to-end digital transformation where everybody gets up and scratches their head and says, how do we go digital, right?
Yeah.
It's, to me, the real quantifiable value is in process transformation. So how are you breaking out the discrete processes in your organization and reimagining them? And how does experience management start to be a natural complement to very rigid systems of record-driven experiences, right? So, when you look at the four master processes that most organizations have, right? Hire to retire, need to cash, source to pay, and then design to operate, right? Those are generally the four mega processes, if you call them, and then there's breakups between them. If you rip apart those four processes and you look at, how they are mostly governed by systems of record, which is really about record keeping, and which no organization can live without, by the way.
Yeah.
SAP, we would not be such a successful large company if that wasn't important, right? Because we excel at that. The question becomes, how do you complement that by bringing in the human aspect into each of those processes at a user journey level, right? From start to finish. So it's lead to cash. It's going all the way from the awareness, the consideration, on and on and on, all those different steps that actually happen in lead to cash. We're breaking them apart and saying, by infusing the ability for people to give you feedback on the way, in process, in context of the process, not just some standalone feedback tool, right? You start to understand what are the inefficiencies and opportunities for improvement because you're measuring, you're monitoring, you're listening. Allows you to find significant process transformations at a micro level. When you do it at that micro level, it is the only way for you to sort of see the net effect of transformation. Otherwise, you sort of pick piecemeal places and you can't really feel the effect, right?
Yeah.
So to me, XM-based transformation for the employee experience, or the customer experience, or the supplier experience, or the partner experience, is where we start to see experience management work in the context of business process to optimize, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we will see the biggest untapped opportunity that can come out of XM.
That's so true. Yeah, and that's so true, right? And XM kind of like drives that innovation aspect of it. It kind of drives our strategy to an extent. So like how is our like customer experience strategy evolving and changing throughout this process?
When you look forward and you look at sort of where customer experience is headed, right? The broadly speaking, the underpinnings of a successful customer experience strategy and execution plan is, let's put it this way, where the battleground is for CX, versus competitive A versus competitive B, say a retailer A versus a retailer B.
Yeah.
The battleground is who is more superior at understanding the customer and putting those learnings dynamically to use in real time, right? Yeah. You could argue that is the fuel that sits underneath CX that really, really helps you differentiate how you engage, how you transact, how you serve a customer, and how you keep them loyal over time, right? Yeah. So, when you think about your ability to understand and act based on customer data, feedback, insight, behaviors, gestures, what have you, that is a combination of how you collect data, how you synthesize data, how you collect preference data, but also the qualitative data that you're gathering about the customer, right? Like, what are you gathering about how they bought, where they bought, their satisfaction with the product, what they like, what they didn't like, love the product, hated the process. Those are all the minutiae and detail that allows you to start to figure out where to take action, where the trouble spots are, right? So, for me, as you start to understand, those underpinnings of how the customer wants to have a relationship with you, how they want to transact, what are their terms, implicit terms. Yeah. It is much easier for you to market to them in a more effective way. It is much easier for you to close transactions for them. It is much easier for you as a retailer to manage your operating margins. I mean, we live in a world where, if you want to, today it's so easy for you sitting at home to say, I need a new pair of shoes. I'm going to get 3. I'll return 2. It's not that hard. Yeah. I mean, think about the hit on operating margins for a retailer every time you and I do that, right? Times millions of consumers. The cost of reverse logistics to put the product back on the shelf or back in the warehouse is added to the cost, to their margin that they would have made on that particular pair of shoes, right? Yeah. To the degree that, we use data and AI to sort of start to have a better clue, what are the probabilities of this happening based on the buyer's behavior, what they purchased, but also sometimes just simple qualitative data to try to understand, like, where is this happening? How can I engage them in a certain way to make sure that they return 1, not 2? Like that's a lot of money saved. So, through the process, I mean, when you start to think about understanding the customer, I think it is about hard data gathered, but it's also a lot about experience data that will truly let you understand the customer, right? So that excites me about, what XM can offer to CX.
Yeah. And excites me too, right? Like it makes me feel like we're actually listening to our customers and we're paying attention to their needs. And that's how we're kind of like working through that. Yeah. So lastly, why should our customers care about our strategy or our innovations, and what can we offer that kind of like helps them through their SAP journey with us?
Listen, first things first is like, we have market leading technology in pretty much every category, right? So when we bring the kind of breadth of technologies that span the demand chain and the supply chain, right? With a platform underpinning all of that allows you to extend the applications and integrate them in different ways and surface data. The flexibility, and by the way, pre-wired, not just, not putting all the burden of the work on the customer. The ability for you to execute digital transformation, wherever the nucleus of the transformation may be. Maybe it's on the supply chain, and you need to get better at bringing front office to customer data into it. Maybe it's in the front end, and you need to be much better at bringing in invoice data or other things. SAP in a way offers you a white canvas, right? For you to be able to say, I can cherry pick and figure out exactly how I need these things stitched together to actually be able to drive significant process, right? So, to me, I think just the backdrop of what we have from a technology standpoint, the standing of these products in the market gives customers a lot of faith that these products are open, they're extensible, they can be integrated. And I just have one organization that will pick this thing apart and actually design it around how I want to drive a certain process. So I think that's really big. I think the second thing is, we as an industry, we sort of went, not just SAP, but we all, as an industry, in the on-premise days, right? We all competed and matured into a very industry-driven model around how we engage with customers, how we serve customers, technologies we built, on and on. And then the market went through this big change into SaaS, which was all very plain vanilla SaaS software offered, generally built for the first time for the mid-market or what have you, but plain vanilla. And you kind of lost some of that relevance to your business, your industry, your needs, on and on and on. I think that, given SAP's heritage and strength in industries, constantly allows us to be able to really look at solving business process problems versus just throwing a bunch of features at you, but also with an industry or a domain lens that matters, right? So the best of our heritage, which was born out of deeply understanding industry problems, we never lost that ability. So you take that and you apply it to what is a very comprehensive cloud SaaS portfolio that we have today. We're pretty untouchable with that front. Right. I think finally, one of the very exciting parts of our portfolio too, where we have redefined and reimagined the process, is what we're doing around business networks. Right. So when you think about business networks, the ability to be able to, get out of the way and stop hard coding customer relationships, but allowing a network and a marketplace to thrive, has given us a solid foundation to really expand that footprint into verticals and other areas, right? So as SAP, we will continue to be providers of technology in the right way for every market. If it's SaaS software you need, you have it from us. If it's a platform you need to extend it, you have it from us. If it's a ready-built network that you can just participate in, you have that from us as well, right? So that gets me pretty excited, because I think we've got the leading modalities of how enterprise software wants to be consumed in pretty much every category.
Yep. And as we work here, like that's one of the things exciting to me as well, right? We get to do a lot of fun stuff. We get to work with cool technologies and like help our customers with that. Sure. And it's a fun place to be.
It's absolutely a fun place to be. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. But thank you so much for sitting with me and having this conversation with me today. I really enjoyed it. I hope our viewers do.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Shreya.
Yep. Thanks.